Well, welcome to the Sweetness of Trial podcast and commentary. My name is Chuck Malone, and I am the author of the book, The Sweetness of Trial, a perspective to help you win, not just endure. It's available in both paperback and Kindle on the Amazon book platform, written by Charles P. Malone. Yours truly. My friends, welcome. I'm really going to give you some raw uh, experience tonight while I'm beginning my very first podcast and the introduction to it. I just want to feel that you're there and maybe you're going through some trials, and maybe there's something in this broadcast tonight that could be of benefit to you. I know that I will benefit just knowing that you're there listening, and maybe there's something that will connect you and I. I hope that's the case. I know we only have a few minutes. I'm going to do my best to hurry this along and not take too much time for commentary. But I thought, while the book is out there, I have so much more to say about it because it was written in 2010 and I've updated it since then. It's been published and out into the world for a little while. But I love the experience of talking about trial, believe it or not. And so tonight, I just want to give you some thoughts and maybe open your heart just a little bit, that you'll want to join me in future episodes as we go through the book. There's only 155 pages, so it's not real long, but I want to go through it with kind of the intent and commentary of experience that goes right along with it. Then if you want to order the book and read it for yourself and underline it and take some of those thoughts, maybe share it with others, well, that would make me so happy. So welcome. The podcast will consist of as many 30-minute audio segments as it takes to provide an audio recording of the entire book. Um, why write a book about trial? Well, why not? Everyone has one and could use some insight into the purpose of trial and how to prepare yourself for the next one. I love this quote from one of my favorite inspirations, Zig Ziglar. I wish I would have had this before I wrote The Sweetness of Trial, because it looks like this was the seed to the sequel of my first book. The sequel is entitled Winning Through Trial. So here's the quote from Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite inspirations. You were born to win, but in order to become a winner, you must plan to win and prepare to win. Then you can legitimately expect to win. I love that. And how do you prepare for trial? I mean, come on. We can neither forecast the intensity of it. We don't know where it's coming from. Maybe we can feel some clouds darkening, but we really don't know. And when it hits like a thief in the night, I promise you. So I know I'm not the only person ever to experience trial, but I wrote The Sweetness of Trial because I wanted, and I call it sweetness. So you'll probably hear me say something about sweetness. I'm talking about my wife as well, but in this case, it's capitalized and I'm talking about the book because I want to share with my family some tried and tested ways that I was guided by God to become a better person because of my trials. I wanted to write those experiences down, and I did. I had them published, and I gave them to my family. Well, I got requests for more, and before you knew it, was picked up by a publisher, and I now am the self-publisher of the updated one, and I hope that that works because I love this. I'm a full-time real estate agent, as many of you know. I have been for 52 years. I never plan on throwing all this experience away. I strive to learn and follow every part of my business wherever it takes me. Um, and sometimes it takes me through trial. And because of those trials, I was able to unlock some hidden gifts and talents within me that would not have come to the forefront without these experiences. So I guess it's an exercise in humility. So I don't want to give you the wrong idea that I go looking for trial because I know it could help me become a better person. I just try very hard to keep trial from coming into my life, like you. But in spite of those efforts, trial finds me when I least expect it and gives me plenty of experiences to fill the pages of a book still. So, welcome to my third podcast episode, and I hope you receive a great return on your time invested. My sincere prayer is that by hearing about my own journey through this trial infested earth life, you will begin to see your own life differently and then take proactive steps to prepare yourself to not only endure the next trial, but to thrive spiritually as you look for opportunity to change and become your greatest self because of trial. I know that's hard to even think right now why you would want to do that or how you could do that. So the road to excellence isn't easy, you know that, but nor is the road to changing one's attitude about trial. But I'm living proof that a kid from Holbrook, raised in the dust of northern Arizona, can rise above his trial with the help of his creator and live to better understand its purpose in shaping me to become a living tool in the hands of the master creator. Maybe to help one other person to live a better life so they can help another who helps another. I think you get the idea. So it is my prayer that you will feel the spirit of this podcast and hang on for the journey of your life, knowing that I am right there with you. So I've already been told that it's 8 minutes into this recording. So I will get as much done with the first introduction to the book. Maybe we'll end it there and start maybe the first chapter after, because there's some things I think you should know. It's a little awkward for me to talk about what other people are saying about the book and I don't take credit for it, folks. I mean, I wrote it, but I was inspired to write it. It was a marvelous experience to do so. I think there's one in every one of us. If you're listening to this and have always wanted to write a book, you should, because it will change your life. So at the very beginning of the book, there's some pages that what people are saying about it that have read it, and they were kind enough to write some very kind words. And I just want you to know I do not get puffed up by hearing these words. I am so grateful for them, but I don't believe them. This is the spirit has covered me for so long now that I just can't take credit for it. So, Sue Ann, I hope you don't mind me using your first expressions when you read it. She said the sweetness of trial is a powerful reminder of how the Lord allows us to learn through our suffering. It also gives power to the thought that in our darkest hours, we are carried beyond one's strength. I love the author's ability to teach me once again that I am never alone, and I bear testimony of that fact, that the things that I have suffered and continue to suffer are not in vain. In the end, it will be the reliance on God that has carved me into the person I am. Oh, don't you love that? Here's another one, Mark. Bless his heart. Boy, he went through some trial that no parent should ever have to go through. As I read through the first part of this book, I was touched deeply. It was obvious that Chuck and his wife had experienced great trials. They had experienced their own refiner's fire. But it just so happened that at this time, my wife and I were going through the trial of our son being murdered by his wife and her lover. We were searching for understanding and to know what we needed to learn from this, if anything, and even through our trial. I mean, even though our trial was different than what Chuck drew upon in his book, his perspective and what he had to say about trial was very helpful to me, and I found myself drawing strength from these experiences. As my wife and I have experienced the trial that came with our son's death, we can start to understand the sweetness that Chuck expounds upon in the book. See, maybe I didn't need more than just that to say, wow, all the hours, all the experiences, if it helped you, Mark, to get through a little bit of what you just went through, it was worth it. Here's Frank from my own hometown. The sweetness of trial was well worth reading. From the shiny blue pickup truck and the bull elk that crashed into it to the ice cream parlor story of Chuck's manager who ran out on him the first day of ownership, Chuck's stories of personal trial were captivating and left me wanting more. Well, here's Linda. Just got married, she did. Her second marriage to a marvelous man. She says, I absolutely love this book. It was brilliantly and beautifully written. Thank you, Linda. She says, Chuck has a gift for making things clear and real. I hope that stays the case as I age. She says, thank you for blessing my life and helping me learn from your experiences how to have the proper perspective for my personal trials and challenges. Your words to seek out Father in heaven in humble supplication, study his words, allow ourselves to feel the atoning sacrifice of our elder brother Jesus Christ on our behalf. We will start to feel a peace, a sweetness, a hope that this too shall pass, have helped to sustain me. I'm looking forward to the next book. Oh, she is. You know, let me see here. What have we got? Well, we're about halfway through. So um, here's one from Steve from a long time ago. Steve and I uh, did some business together. He was a marvelous man to work with. Steve says it mirrored so many of the aspects of my own personal trials, and at a time when all seemed completely lost, it gave me a degree of additional strength that pulled me out of a place I never want to go back to. It's hard to explain what actually happened, but I will be forever grateful for the experience of the trial and reading this amazing book. It gave me the insight to set the stage for dealing with challenges of this life as they come day to day. Wow, Steve, thanks, bud. Now I've got a friend, Kerry. He's been in the military. He was kind of a combat medic in 1968. He has been through so much. He knows me pretty well, and he says the journeys that Chuck has faced have been pretty large in regard to trials. He knows that. The amazing thing is that he has what I call someone with a winning attitude. He kept keeping on when it was difficult to do so, and because he did not quit, he has overcome many things that has kept so many people from being able to find the sweetness of joy. I think what he meant was that I've used my experiences in writing, and sometimes it's hard to put yourself out there vulnerable to let people know that you I've had some trial, and it hasn't all been rosy, and been a lot of loss along the way. But I love what he says, that the book gives hope to each of us about trial, that we too can find the care of our Lord and the love of our Savior as we experience trial. Carrie, that was so right on. I thank you. Oh, here's a sweetheart, Brittany. She says, great book. I really enjoyed reading it. As a person who has endured many trials myself, I can see how this book would really be of help. It really makes me feel good to know that I'm not alone in having trials. Sometimes when I'm going through a hard time, it is difficult to believe that someone else can be going through some of the same things. So it's nice to see that I am not alone. Thank you, Brittany. Now, Lorraine. Lorraine was such a dear, helping me on the first book, and getting a group of people together, and having a night filled with sharing some of this. It was just marvelous. She says, reading The Sweetness of Trial has been an insightful journey for my own life. Chuck shares the trials and triumphs of his own life. It gives me hope for the trials I continue to endure. This book is an easy read and filled with encouraging thoughts and words that can help me realize that I can find joy in the trials of life. Woo. It helps me to look for the good in each situation and hold that focus throughout each trial. Thank you for sharing your life with us. Well, Lorraine, thank you. Now, here's Erin. She's a dear neighbor. She says, The Sweetness of Trial was honestly one of the best and most authentic books I have ever read on trial and the purpose, and ultimately their blessing in our lives. Well, she says Chuck writes in a way that makes it seem that he knew me and my desire to better understand the trials I have personally faced, and change my outlook from why me to seeing more of the Lord's divine design. I related the content of the book I related to the content of the book on many levels, and felt like the book offered exactly the answer I needed or had been looking for regarding various trials I have experienced during the course of my life. Chuck made the advice and counsel he offered more believable and real as he shared many personal stories of trial. So I found myself not wanting to put the book down, and had it read in a very short amount of time. To say The Sweetness of Trial changed me is in no way an exaggeration. I have come to understand and truly believe there can be joy in every journey, no matter how hard it may seem at the time. The biggest takeaway I gained from reading this amazing book is we choose how we will react to a trial, and ultimately how it will affect us in the end. No one is immune to challenges in life, but for those who learn to see and feel the sweetness of trials, and allow them to make our lives better rather than rob us of joy, you will experience a love from God and those closest to them that only trial can bring. And then she has in great big caps, a must read. Thank you, Aaron. That is so sweet. So I'm probably going to end here. Here's one from Keith. Keith is one of my neighbors growing up. He's a little older than I am. I look to him as a great example. He says, what a privilege it is for me to put in writing how I feel about this book, The Sweetness of Trial. Chuck has put together a book for all to read. I am not fully capable of describing my most sincere feelings that came as I was reading it and trying to digest all it was telling me about trial and adversity that can come into anyone's life at any time. But Chuck stated in his own words that it was primarily written for his family and friends. What a tragedy for many others if that was the case. By reading it, there is so much to learn about trial. I have been very lucky to have known Chuck from his early years, And this book is a testimony that Jesus Christ remains available and his light fills the universe still. Whew. Well, that gives me 10 minutes to just kind of prepare you for the next episode. And as we go through the copyright and some of the others, this book has been updated. And I want you to bear with me a little bit here. This could be challenging for me, not get emotional, because the book itself is dedicated to my grandson, Jacob Priestley. Jacob is a true example of not only enduring trial, but falling forward. Jacob was diagnosed at age 4 with autism. After struggling to find acceptance in public school and specialty academies, Jacob's learning challenges worsened, resulting in his homeschooling by his mother at age 7. In other words, the school system had no place for Jacob. And it was very, very discouraging at that time. It was shortly after his 8th birthday, and this is all written in the book, in the preface part, that Jacob was diagnosed as having a rare disease affecting the cells of the body responsible for creating more than 90% of the energy needed by the body to sustain life and support growth. Mitochondrial disease began attacking Jacob's nervous system, affecting notice from the brain when a bowel movement was needed, resulting in frequent trips to emergency and extended hospital care to clean out his colon. Jacob's body started rejecting food, resulting in ports, plural, being inserted to transfuse and import liquid foods to help him gain weight. Unfortunately, those efforts were successful only temporarily. Jacob's motor skills deteriorated rapidly, placing him mostly homebound or under hospital care for weeks at a time. He had not eaten solid food for the 2-year period, covering the time period ports were used to import liquid foods, and it was during this time of frequent hospital visits that Jacob was asked what he wanted for his 12th birthday. His answer was simply birthday cards. Jacob asked for 400. Well, he didn't ask for 400. Maybe that's what he did. I think now, as I said, I think he said that and we all laughed. 400 birthday cards to read during his long hospital stays. And then through social media, a miracle happened. Jacob's wish for birthday cards was answered not only by friends and family, but by local sports teams, police and firemen, local news media. Jacob received over 2,000 birthday cards that year. Can you imagine? I remember driving down to the post office in our SUV and them coming out with these boxes and boxes and boxes to load. Jacob's health problems began to accelerate, and after a lengthy hospital stay, Jacob's doctors confided that they could no longer find a means to feed Jacob internally, and the ports which provided an extension of life would need to be removed, as Jacob's veins had deteriorated to the point of being unable to carry nutrients. To further complicate matters, Jacob was found to have developed a blood clot in his chest, a sleeping time bomb that could explode at any moment, causing immediate death. After many attempts to find a surgeon who would operate on Jacob to remove the clot, it was finally determined a week before Christmas that no one would risk surgery given Jacob's current condition. And with heavy hearts, Jacob's family brought him home to die. To everybody's surprise, Jacob did not die. But without the nutrients to feed his body, Jacob lost more weight and eventually dropped to only 75 pounds. His height, however, had soared to 6 foot tall, but he weighed only 75 pounds. It was then that Jacob began to eat just enough to sustain life. Over the past years, the adventures with Mighty Jake, you can search Facebook for Adventures with Mighty Jake. Um, these adventures have grown to epic proportions, with kids from all ages aware of who Mighty Jake is and how his story has inspired them to overcome their own trials. Jacob's simple wish of birthday cards has grown to touch the hearts of thousands and thousands of people across not only these United States, but other countries as well, yielding for his 15th birthday over 65,000 birthday cards. Jacob has been the guest of Disneyland, Disney World, New York's finest NYPD, the Grand Marshal of Brooklyn North Marathon, Jacob was, and the list goes on and on as the kid with the radiant smile continues to touch hearts and generate hope in light of such a bleak picture. Looking back, I shall forever remember this sweet boy's reaction the first time I held on to him in a hug and tenderly did not let go. He reacted impulsively at first, as those stricken with autism often do when hugged. But then he settled into my arms, into what would become our ritual whenever Jacob would come for a visit. The emotional devastation his family feels at the stark future painted by Jacob's doctors can only be compared to their unconquerable faith that one day their Jacob will cross the finish line, most likely ahead of him, and win. To my grandson Jacob, I dedicate this book, and to his family, who has supported him through his earthly trial and has themselves tasted the sweetness of trial. Now here's an update on Jake, just real quick. We got 3 minutes. At his peak, Jake has grown to reach 6'6". Rarely does mitochondrial disease make it easy for his captive to escape the devastating assault. Upon an already weakened body, Jake has currently lost 3 inches of his height due to his new enemy, scoliosis. Scoliosis is an incurable condition, often life-threatening if left untreated. In Jake's case, there is no treatment due to the fragile condition of his body. The pain associated with Jake's worsening diagnosis is only tolerable because of his autism, a rare gift not received by all who are diagnosed with this disease. But Mighty Jake continues to fight despite his need for continuous oxygen to help keep his body functioning the best it can. His energy level is decreasing significantly as he ages, and his weight continues to drop despite his mother's attempts at feeding him. But there is no dispute. Mighty Jake is a miracle, and we are blessed to have him with us as long as this miracle is allowed to continue. His smile is contagious. His laughter heals broken hearts. He is Mighty Jake. And I have been supported under trials and troubles of every kind, yea, and in all manner of afflictions. Yea, God has delivered me from prison, and from bonds, and from death. Yea, and I do put my trust in him, and he will still deliver me. This is a quote in Alma 36:27 in the Book of Mormon. The table of contents, my friends, is the opening gate, if you will, to the book. I've got 1 more minute now, and I need to be winding this down. I hope that you'll come back with us. We've got the preface kind of covered. We want to talk about the article that kind of opened the door to this book, The Sweetness of Trial, then reflections as a youth, and then some basic truths. Trial, a necessary part of God's plan, enduring trial, waiting upon the Lord, why bad things happen to good people. You'll want to tune in for that one. And then this too shall pass. And then hope smiles, and then winning through trial. My friends, this has been marvelous. I am so grateful that you would have this time to spend with me tonight. I hope that you will look for future episodes, and I hope this is worth your time.